The interesting thing here is that the amount of design space that's opened up from this type of technology is pretty broad. Beyond just the RPG example, which I was just articulating, what they do in this example is he's using it to actually not only get information about the upcoming mission, which is something that sort of rhymes with the RPG elements that I was just talking about, but he actually uses it later on in the video as an interface for selecting the different mechs and then customizing the mech once it's selected. And so, he just said, choose my mech. And now he walks in and he goes and you get the whole pretty mech animation. And then as you go forward, he's basically saying, okay, that's great, but now what I want to do is customize it to a different place. And he's basically using his voice as an input to actually do what you would usually do with a controller. And so he's basically saying, turn this to gold, turn this to pink, and it's doing it in real time. And so that's like a new interface, not super sophisticated or by itself, but you can imagine how this type of technology unlocks all different types of gameplay experiences that are different than what we have seen historically. Nvidia had a press release, which is pretty interesting. I want to sort of talk a little bit about a couple of different components, and we'll throw on some videos from the press release as we talk. So at Gamescom this week, Nvidia announced a suite of tools to help developers create better NPCs, which they are hilariously calling digital humans, including a Nemotron 4B Instruct small language model, which runs on device. So this model provides better role-playing, retrieval, augmentation, generation, action capabilities. But basically, the game characters can more intuitively comprehend player instructions, respond to gamers, and perform more accurate and relevant actions. Let's talk a little bit about what a small language model is, like this one. Small language models are sort of different than the core large language models that we've all gotten used to using, something like ChatGPT. They're very focused on a specific use case, and they acquire less data and provide accurate responses for these very specific and narrow use cases. In this example, what they did is they created a student model, which mimics the patterns of a large language model, the teacher model, and they basically are able to create a slimmed down version of it, which reduces the number of the parameters, which works if you target specific use cases, but increases speed. And so I'm not an AI expert, but basically the key takeaway here is they found ways to create models that are very, very point use cases, which are able to run on local devices, which changes the way that we are able to interact with them. So there's a suite of tools they've introduced as part, and this is just one of them. But the output of this is that you are able to interface with these language models on game devices in a way that was never possible before. And so that's sort of the key technology unlock here. I'd say the demos are really cool. We'll link to the demos in the video, in the show notes if you want to watch the videos. But obviously this is very early technology and we're not quite to the point yet where this is something that's going to be rolled out widely.
Xander, you used a lot of big words there. I'm a simple man. I'm going to try to repeat back to you and you tell me if any of this is wrong.
I'll try my best.
So Nvidia doing new AI stuff in gaming.
Yep.
And the innovation here is doing local processing, meaning that if I'm playing on a computer with an Nvidia GPU, that it's running and powering these AI NPCs in the demo, not in the cloud, not on a server somewhere, but on my local computer, which is allowing for more robust interactions, faster processing interaction time, and enabling new types of AI interaction with NPCs and in-game characters that previously were not really practical way to do. Is that the general gist of this development?
As a non-AI expert, that is exactly correct. So I think one of the cool, interesting key takeaways of the demo is traditionally large language models try and create one accurate output. What the technology in the demo example is they have different parameters you can tune to get a different type of output from the same underlying NPC. So you can say, hey, turn up your creativity, and he starts making a joke. You say, turn up your toxicity, and he starts being. You can say, turn up your verbosity, and it'll talk more eloquently and at longer length. And this is really interesting because it gives game developers an interface to tune characters in a way that you would traditionally script different characters in tree-based dialogue game. And I think what's really interesting here is we're clearly early stage, but there's obviously a lot of use cases that downstream from this that might be really, really interesting. The interesting thing here is that the amount of design space that's opened up from this type of technology is pretty broad. Beyond just the RPG example, which I was just articulating, what they do in this example is he's using it to actually not only get information about the upcoming mission, which is something that sort of rhymes with the RPG elements that I was just talking about, but he actually uses it later on in the video as an interface for selecting the different mechs and then customizing the mech once it's selected. And so, he just said, choose my mech. And now he walks in and he goes and you get the whole pretty mech animation. And then as you go forward, he's basically saying, okay, that's great, but now what I want to do is customize it to a different place. And he's basically using his voice as an input to actually do what you would usually do with a controller. And so he's basically saying, turn this to gold, turn this to pink, and it's doing it in real time. And so that's a new interface, not super sophisticated or by itself, but you can imagine how this type of technology unlocks all different types of gameplay experiences that are different than what we have seen historically. This opens up a huge amount of space outside of a traditional console. What if, now we're talking way in the future, but imagine you have, a VR headset and you can like interface with it using voice. It just opens up a huge amount of design space. I think that's why this is interesting as like a sort of long-term moonshot, is that there's a lot of different design space possibilities that we could open up.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I mean, when I learned about this, my brain instantly went to, I think, the first use case you described, which is like, we talk a lot about one of the pros of AI coming to gaming more full forced is just enabling lean teams to do more with, like the low-hanging fruit is exactly as you described. I'm building a massive RPG. I don't want to build like, I want dynamic dialogue. I don't want to build out every dialogue tree. So I'm going to kind of fill in the gaps or have PCs be fully powered by these models. So just a basic chat interaction, making that more robust, more fulfilling for the player. It had not even dawned on me, and it seems so obvious seeing it in practice, using these models as a UI and control element. I think that's fascinating. That opens up a ton of new possibilities in a really cool way. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I think it's also, my gut is this is an area of AI in gaming that I feel like gamers are going to be more likely to embrace. I know there's still, last year it was anything that smelled like crypto or Web3 and gaming was toxic to gamers. This year it's the same thing with AI. But I do think that this is going to create a lot more compelling and fun new use cases to where people are going to overlook their current bias towards AI and kind of embrace that this is a way that it's making gaming more compelling for me.
Right, and I think that's the key thing, is that actually if you can provide a new differentiated experience, that's really meaningful. What I think people are rebelling against is the fact that they're saying, hey, you're just using AI-generated art to do shittier art for cheaper because you're, and like that, it's like you're getting a worse experience. This can actually provide a better experience, then great, people are all about it. I mean, that's the thing. The technology needs to have a valuable outcome. Hello, crypto bros. Anyway, that's it. Warren, take us out.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. As always, the pod is brought to you by our team at Uptick. Here at Uptick, we help games grow. We do all the various work and provide all the analytics and software to scale your games more profitably. So if you're scaling a cool game, reach us on our website. It's uptick.com, UPPTIC.com.
Talk soon.